All right, looks like we're live here. I see some folks hopping in. Our attendees are joining the webinar. Thank you, welcome. And we're gonna get started here.
We are good on Facebook and YouTube, so
great.
Good luck.
Everybody bear with us as we get everybody logged in and make sure our live stream is working and all of that. Todd, are you is Robert pinned, or is it just me that he's
not pinned? I can see him.
Okay, good. So we're going to give it a couple minutes here before we get started, but we do want to utilize the entire time today as much as possible because we know you all have a lot of questions and are excited to hear from our new CEO. So I think you're really going to enjoy this. I hope we're going to enjoy this. This is the first time we've done something like this. So it could be the last time we do something like this. We'll see.
It's exciting. Got to innovate.
Yeah. So we have about a dozen or so people on, and we had about twice that much sign up. So I'm going to give them a couple more minutes to get in, and then we'll get started. Hi, Alfred. See you in the chat. As you all are getting logged on, we are here live on Facebook and YouTube. And in this webinar are our Club 56 members. So our Club 56 members are donors to our recurring giving program, and they get special perks and insider access as part of as a thank you for their investment in Phantom Regiment. So we're going to give them some time to get logged in so that they can do a lot of the asking of the questions. And then if and when we run out of their questions, we will turn over to the live stream and ask some of those questions. So those of you who are watching live, you're welcome to throw questions either in the Facebook chat or the YouTube chat as we get going here. And if we have some time at the end, we'll definitely try and answer those. Hopefully a lot of your questions will be answered throughout the hour here that we're together. All right, so a few items of just business here. For those of you who are joining us in the webinar, you are on mute and we can't see you. It's not like this is a certain kind of Zoom. It's not a meeting. So make sure you're using the chat or the Q&A button if you have questions to ask. And Robert is actually hidden in here to help. If you have any technical issues, you are welcome to reach out to him or raise your hand or whatever buttons you have there, and we will try and get you taken care of. All right, I think we should kick things off. Todd, what do you think?
I love it. Let's do it.
All right. So we're going to get started. I am not going to play host. I'm really just going to play question asker for Todd so that he can focus on answering questions and doesn't have to do any of the technical stuff. So why don't you start, Todd, by giving us a little introduction to who you are and how you ended up here at Phantom Regiment.
Yes. Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in and for joining us. If you're a Club 56 member, thank you so much for participating and joining and supporting us. So welcome to this event. And I want to thank Robin and Robert and the rest of the team who's running all the logistics behind to make this event successful. So thank you so much. And happy holidays, everybody. We've had an exciting, past week, and we've got New Year's Eve coming up. So I hope everybody's being safe and healthy and is getting a chance to meet up with friends and loved ones. So happy holidays. I'm very excited to be here. As Robin said, I'm the new CEO of Phantom Regiment. I was appointed in early September. So I've been in the job for just over 3 months, and it's been a whirlwind, but it's been really great to be here. What I've been so impressed with the Phantom Regiment family is just the sense of welcoming and help that everybody's been providing. So whether that's staff, it's alumni, it's fans, it's friends who are just so supportive and so excited for the Phantom Regiment and for me to be here. So thank you all for everybody making me feel so welcome here. Just a little bit about my background. I'm an instrumentalist. I played trombone in middle school and high school and went through college as a music education major. And I was going to be a band director, and I was excited to be a conductor and all those things. And got my music education degree from Texas Tech University. I grew up outside of Austin in a small town called Georgetown. Went to Texas Tech and started teaching in San Antonio at Judson High School in the San Antonio area. That was my first teaching job. From there, I never thought I would be a performer, but that was around the time that Blast was sort of hitting the scene. It had sort of opened up in 1999 and started doing a little mini national tour. I went to go see the show in Washington, D.C. and totally fell in love with it. And I never got to march drum corps. I never did that activity. I ended up working at Interlochen Arts Camp in Michigan during my sort of marching era, my marching time. And so when I saw Blast, I got excited and thought, this is a chance for me to relive my drum corps moments, but inside in air conditioning and to get paid for it. So I was real excited to audition, and I made the cast of Blast, the first national touring cast. So I performed at Disney World. So if anybody was at Epcot in the summer of 2001, you might have seen me on stage at Epcot. And then we went on a big national tour, and I toured with Blast as a trombone player. And then I was later a swing. So that meant I knew 2 different trombone roles, a euphonium role and the conductor role, my second year of tour. So I did that for 2 years. And then when I got out of Blast, I really had this, bug for the drum corps activity. Now, having get to do some of like the best of moments in that show. And a friend of mine recruited me to teach low brass at Madison Scouts in 2003. So that's how I got into the drum corps activity, was teaching at Madison Scouts in 2003. And then I've kind of been involved ever since. So I taught at the Madison Scouts for 4 years. I taught at Glassman. And then I ended up on the brass staff at Spirit of Atlanta. And while I was on the staff there at Spirit of Atlanta, I was in Atlanta getting my PhD at Georgia State University. And since I was sort of local and was spending a lot of time there, the board members were talking to me about, hey, maybe you could help out around the office and maybe you could do a couple admin things. And like any other drum corps person, I said yes. And then ended up doing a couple things, which turned into a lot of things. And eventually my role there grew and I became the corps director at Spirit of Atlanta in 2011. And then I was the executive director for the 2012 and 2013 season. So that's sort of my drum corps background was through Madison Scouts and through Spirit mostly, with a year with the Glassmen. But during my real life outside of the summers, I continued my goal of pursuing music education. So I got a master's in music education from Arizona State University. And while I was there, I started working with the Phoenix Symphony and doing a lot of their community engagement work and working with public schools in the Phoenix School District. And I really saw the power of combining nonprofit arts organizations with public schools and university training and how those things could all work together. So that really took me on that track of community engagement work and doing that with the Phoenix Symphony. So when I moved to Atlanta to pursue my PhD, I continued that work and was a coordinator for the Sound Learning Program there, which is a collaboration between the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, Georgia State University, and the Atlanta Public Schools. So I got to continue that community engagement work. And I was constantly doing drum corps on sort of in the cracks in between all this as I was going. And then after I finished my doctorate work at Georgia State, I was offered a position at University of Minnesota. I taught the undergraduate music education courses at the University of Minnesota for a year, and then came back and spent more full-time work at Spirit of Atlanta. After I left Spirit of Atlanta, I returned back to my community engagement roots again and started working as the education coordinator for the Atlanta Symphony. And then when I moved to Chicago, I became director of learning programs at Lyric Opera of Chicago, and then was eventually served in an interim role as the sort of interim vice president of Lyric Unlimited while I was there before I ended up at Phantom. So the reason I tell that story is just because I've sort of had this through line of having community education and public school education work as well as drum corps. And I like that all those things kind of come together in this job. So that's sort of my background in drum corps, my background in education, my background in community engagement work and nonprofit leadership. And now I'm here. So.
Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm going to turn it over to some of the questions that we're getting online, and encourage our Club 56 folks to go ahead and submit some questions. I know sometimes it takes a minute to think about what you want to ask, but I will follow up your speech with, what do you hope to accomplish at Phantom Regiment? I know it's been only a few months since you've been here, but like, what's your vision for what we can do here with you as our leader?
That's a great question. Thanks. I think there's a lot of approaches to this type of organization, and while it's not the most exciting part of the conversation, it's important to say that we have financial stability. So I want to make sure that the organization is on a really stable financial ground so that we can do all the great programs that we want to do, all the sort of the dreaming and the excitement and all the engagement that we want to do with the audience and with students and with directors around the country. We have to make sure we have a good financial base. So that's one of my goals, is to make sure that our financial base is stable, that it continues to grow, and that we can start planning multi-years in advance instead of just year to year. We can look 3-5 years down the road. And we know that we always have that stability at the base, so that we can continue to do the program. So that's one of my goals, is to increase that base and stability there. Another one of my goals, obviously, is to increase the prominence of the drum corps. This drum corps has such a storied history, and it's been such a fan favorite for so many people for so long. We want to keep that running. We want to stay an icon of the activity. I think no one has the sound that Phantom Regiment has, or has the precision that Phantom Regiment has, and I just want to restore that as much as we can over the next few years. So that's definitely something we want to continue to do. And then the third prong to this, I think, is increasing our efforts through the PR Academy. The PR Academy is all of our educational efforts that lie outside of the Drum Corps program. So a lot of people may not know that we have educational camps that we offer in the summer for high school students and directors. We have an online instrumental learning system for young musicians or musicians that are transitioning from one instrument to another, that we offer through the Marching Arts Education Network. And we also host various festivals. We have a marching band festival in the fall at Northern Illinois University, and we have a concert band festival coming up in Northern Illinois in February, at the end of February. So any band directors out there that have middle school or high school bands in the Northern Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, Indiana area, if you're interested in coming to that festival, please check out our website. That's on February, I think 25th, or it might be the 24th. I can't remember which the Friday is, but we do a lot of work through the Academy, and I want to increase that. I think we want to look at different ways to engage students and different populations and different directors, and get more participants in our programs. Another program that we have through the Academy is the Rockford Rhythm Drumline and Color Guard. So it's a chance for us to kind of return to our roots, the way that Phantom Regiment started, which was being a local organization for local kids to sort of join up, and even if with no experience, be able to play and to perform, and get a chance to fall in love with music and performance. So we have that program running as well in Rockford right now, and we're hoping to grow that as well over the next couple of years. So I think there's a lot of potential that we can do with the organization, and I'm excited to start putting those plans in place.
Great. Let's maybe, because a lot of questions have come in that really are approach each of these three topics that you just talked about. So maybe we can start with the financial state of the organization. Can you share a little bit about where we're at post-pandemic, the fallout from the pandemic, where we're at today, all of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, I should say that the organization had to make a lot of tough decisions during the pandemic. I was not around the organization at the time, but a lot of my friends were still in the drum corps activity. And there were so many questions about whether we could still do what we do and what this would be sort of the end of the activity as we know it. But I think I have to congratulate the board and the administration of Phantom Regiment at the time, because they made a lot of really tough decisions that ended up making sure the organization stayed viable and actually put us in a very strong financial position coming into this season and coming out of the 21 sort of shortened tour season. So we're in a really great position moving into 2022. I like to say we have money in the bank. So many drum corps, and I've been there so many times, sort of live paycheck to paycheck or come off the road and are looking at all their bills and thinking like, how are we going to get this started for the next season? And we are in a really strong financial situation where we didn't have that problem. But again, that was because of so many tough decisions the organization had to make. One of those was downsizing and moving our office and our storage warehouse facility. So we had to move during the pandemic. We had to downsize our staff, our instructional staff and our administrative staff. So we had to make a lot of sacrifices there. And we had to sell some of our vehicles. And one of our big campaigns right now for the end of the year is to replace our vehicle that tows our fan shop around all summer long, because we had to sell that and cut that loss during the pandemic. So now we need to go back and buy a vehicle to replace that. And as everybody knows, prices are skyrocketing for used vehicles and new vehicles, and gas is going up and everything like that. So because of those tough choices, we were able to weather the storm. And we also got a lot of assistance from the government in forms of grants and loans, and donors like you who just helped us out when we really needed it. So without that support, it wouldn't have made it through that. But because of that, we have a really strong base that we can build on and sort of restart our operations. So we're excited to start adding back staff, adding back more tour opportunities in the summer, as well as hopefully replacing this Subi rig very soon. So that's kind of the basic nutshell of where we are financially. I feel strong. I know the board is excited. I know the finance committee is excited of where we are, and really looking forward to keeping this base under us as we keep moving forward.
Good. One of our Club 56 members, Barbara, has a question. I think this ties into both the financial aspect and then into the drum corps. With that financial impact from the pandemic, how is that affecting design decisions for 2022 and maybe even further down the road, specifically kind of regarding, potentially expensive things like props and things like that require additional vehicles? And an addendum to that is, does like DCI have an input on those decisions for all of the drum corps, or is that really a corps-to-corps decision? So two-part question.
Great. I will take the easy one first. The easy one is that DCI does not have input on how we budget. Okay, so we belong to DCI as a member organization, and they definitely oversee. They want to make sure that we're doing things in proper ways and have a good financial base, and we have a strong board, and we have good policies in place and all those things. But they really don't tell us how we want to spend our money. So it's really up to every organization how they choose to do that. So that's the easy question. DCI doesn't have any say over that. I will say they do when you're talking about props and things like that. They have a lot of standards and safety policies that they want us to follow. So they want to make sure that when we build something for the stage, that it's sturdy, it can support a certain amount of weight. It has to be able to obviously roll and not destroy the artificial turf that's in many of the stadiums that we perform in. So they're really concerned a lot about member and participant safety, which is great. But in terms of how much that costs and how you do it, it's really up to us. So back to the harder part of the question. Yes, it is my perspective that I think it's easy to think that, well, we're going to do drum corps again, and we're going to have a competitive season in 22, which everybody's excited about. So we just need to turn the switch back on and do full throttle. Here we go, back into drum corps. But financially rebuilding from the pandemic, that's difficult. We don't want to just all of a sudden throw everything into it and kind of be back in the same boat that we were in, which is that cycle of kind of running out of money, or that some organizations, run into that cycle. So I know that I'm working with David Warren, our core director, and Tony, our program coordinator, supervisor, to look at those choices and make sure that we're making smart choices about the things that we need to add to our show design, the things that we need to add to our touring model, so that we can build into those without sort of breaking the bank in one big bust. Having said that, we still have to be competitive, right? We still have to be cutting edge. We still have to be a 2022 drum corps that is competitive and looks like it's the rest of the field, right? That's out there that we're working with. So we're trying to make really smart choices about what's going to give us the most impact and the most bang for our buck, literally, on that. So we're still in the works of that. We're still playing with ideas. We're still tweaking a lot of those ideas and those thoughts, and thinking about what's going to be most cost effective, what's going to give us the most, GE, impact moment, and trying to find that middle ground that's going to be the best decision for our organization at the time.
Great. Let's segue a little bit into talking about the PR Academy. We've had a few questions about that. Will you please kind of share what the status is now, maybe talk a little bit about our new hire and what the timeline looks like for adding events and stuff such like that?
Yeah. So one of those sacrifices, from the pandemic, the 2020 season, the 2021 season, is that we had to, sort of pause many of our live educational camps that we did like around the country, but we're excited to be able to start bringing those back this year. We have just hired a new PR Academy director. Her name is Dr. Kate Ferguson. She is incredible, and she just started about a month ago, and she is the director of athletic bands at Youngstown State in Ohio, and she has over 22 years of public school experience at a wide range of education levels and education environments. She's been in urban settings, schools. She's been in suburban settings. She's been in private schools. She's been in public schools. She's taught at the university level, the middle school level, high school level. She's really been, has a wide range of experience there. So we're real excited to bring her on because I think she's going to have a lot of great perspective on the types of education programs that we can develop outside of the drum corps experience. So we are planning to bring back educational camps this summer all around the country as the drum corps tours. As I mentioned earlier, we have an online expert lesson series that we offer through the Marching Arts Education Network. That's a great resource for young instrumentalists that are getting started on their instrument and want some extra help. If they don't have a private lesson teacher, it's great for maybe people that are in rural areas that don't have a lot of access to private lesson teachers, as well as maybe small schools that have limited resources. So we're trying to develop those online resources in the future. What else can we do for band directors around the country? What else can we do for students around the country that happens virtually, or that's some sort of video presentation, in addition to the live education camps that we have traditionally offered? And like I said, we also have the Rockford Rhythm program, which is in Rockford for local area students and young kids. And that continued on through the pandemic, which was great, but their membership has suffered, and we're trying to build that back up and get more and more kids involved in that. So I think with Dr. Ferguson in place, the sky's the limit. She's very excited to hit the ground running with different ideas, and we're just looking to keep expanding those and get more kids involved in our programs.
Kyle would like to know, can individuals receive accredited college credit for those academy courses?
That's a great question. Right now, we do not have a partnership with the university to receive college credit, but I love that idea. And I know that drum corps have done similar types of things in the past where they've gotten college credit for different activities. So I'm going to jot that down because that's a really great way for us to partner with some university around the country that might want to offer some sort of credit that we can build a program or build a course that students or teachers can take, continuing education. That's awesome. I love it.
And again, on this subject, Ed would like to know, how is Phantom Regiment blending what we do on a drum corps field into partnerships with other community or student-based programs?
Sure, that's a great question. So I think what's great about the interplay between the drum corps program and the academy programs is that we can learn from each other, right? So there are things that we do throughout the drum corps program that we've gotten really, really good at, that our designers are the best in the world at, that our instructional staff is the best in the world at, and that our members are great at too. So what are some lessons that we can take from that we can share into the educational space through the academy? And I don't mean that we're going to make more drum corps or make other kid drum corps members through our programs. But what are the key lessons about rehearsal technique? What are the key lessons about performance? What are the key lessons about how to practice? Those are things that sort of transcend no matter if you're in an orchestra class or if you're in a band class or a choir class, or whether you're on the marching field or you're in a classroom, right? So I think there's things that we can take, some lessons we can take that we've learned through the drum corps and translate them into a broader educational space. And likewise, I think there's things that we can learn from the academy. There's things about community engagement. There's things about how we engage participants. There's things about creativity and looking in, maybe you're finding new ways to think about show design that can feed back into the drum corps program as well. So I see it as a symbiotic relationship that I hope will continue to kind of feed off each other and just make more great programs for our organization in the future.
Fantastic. Let me look at, see if there's a few other questions in here. Let's see. Let me see here. What are some of the strengths and weaknesses of the organization right now in your mind, especially with fresh eyes? I think this would be a nice one to be able to say, maybe not strengths and weaknesses, but maybe we can phrase it as opportunities. Strengths and opportunities for
strengths and places to grow, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So I think the strengths that we have are numerous. For one, I think we have an incredible design team. We have some of the best designers in the business working for Phantom Regiment, and that are really dedicated to making it the best show for the members and the best show for the fans as well. So we have really strong designers. And then in tangent with that, I would say is our instructional staff. Being new to the organization, I had the opportunity to attend our audition camp in November. And I made a point of walking around and watching every sort of section and every teacher try to teach. So I went to the guard rehearsals and I watched them do dance. I watched them do flag. And I went to brass and watched them do warm-ups. And I watched people do auditions. And then I flew to Akron and watched our percussion staff, teach all of the percussionists. And they are just, the information that they give is incredible. The way that they support the members is incredible. And the way, even though it was an audition process, they were just making sure everybody had a good time. Everybody had fun and enjoyed the experience. So that's definitely a strength. The people that we have in this organization is one of our strengths for sure. Like I said, I think another strength for us right now is our financial stability. Any organization, whether it's a drum corps or not, and I've been around a lot of nonprofit organizations, money is always sort of at the top of the list and trying to make sure that's stable. And we are stable right now. We're in a strong position, and that is a huge strength for us, which is great. I think we have an amazing core director, David Warren. David Warren is incredible. His passion for this organization, his love for the history of this organization, and his care of the members is awesome. So we're really thankful to have him around. What's some other good strengths? I think another incredible strength of the organization is the alumni base, the fan base. We're really fortunate to have been around for 65 years, and a lot of those years the organization has been very successful and very entertaining and very prominent. So we have a huge base of alumni that are all over the country that are doing incredible things inside the educational space. Maybe they're doctors, maybe they're lawyers, maybe they're doing nonprofit work, or they're successful businessmen and women. It's incredible. So I think that is a huge strength for us as well. And I'm sure there's more and more, and I'm just can't think of them right at this particular moment. But I'll probably jog them as I keep going through. Places where we can grow, things that we can do better at. I think again, the growth in the space of the educational world, I think is something that we can continue to grow. What we offer people, that's not just the drum corps. I think we can reach more and more students that way. I'm excited to do that. I think we need to continue to look at revenue streams. That's something we, as the board and the financial finance committee looks at. That's something we're always trying to scratch our heads. But one of our strengths is our fan shop. It is incredible. We do over $200,000 worth of revenue just through our merchandise program, and it's a year-long program. So kudos to Robert and his team for everything that they do. If you haven't been to the fan shop, that's another great way to support us, because the quality of our products, the sort of creativity, the designs, the look, there's something new kind of like every corner, like you turn, there's like a new thing that just came out. I don't know if you've seen the Phantom little puppy dog stuffed animals that we have now. They're adorable. So if you're a dog fan, or if you have kids that need a stuffed animal, please go out and buy one of those. So that's a huge strength of ours. And that's doing really great. But is there another revenue stream that we can find? So that's something we need to keep working on. So those are probably just at the top of my head, the things, but I'm sure there's more that will come to me as we keep talking.
Awesome. You mentioned alumni. Question here. Can you talk about your experiences with meeting alumni, and how would you like to see the organization integrate with the alumni moving forward? And that includes, within Rockford and local community, and globally now, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. I think alumni are the backbone of any organization. So, I think you can have all the money in the world. You can have an incredible design team. You can have the top of the line touring vehicles and all of that. But if you don't have like a family base, it's really hard to get the community excited about what you're doing. And then when you need help, it's really hard to turn and look for places, because parents of our members are being stretched in so many different directions these days. It's different than it was, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. So where I think, parents were a lot of the base back in the days, but the alumni is so important. So, to me, it's a key thing. And it's actually one of the questions I asked before I took the job was, how strong is your, alumni presence, and how supportive is the alumni? Because I have been at organizations where that wasn't the case. And again, it's really hard when you just need sometimes to get even the simplest thing done. You need someone to pick someone up at the airport or whatever, or you need donations to come in or whatever it is. So it's a really strong thing here. And it's my perspective that alumni should be welcomed as much as possible into all the things that we do. So I personally, want to see you at as many of our rehearsals that are open and performances that are open, information, things that we do. If you can come out and, just watch the Red and Black Marching Band Festival at NIU, just be there to clap in the stands for even these high school kids that have nothing to do with Phantom Regiment. That's supportive. So I try to welcome alumni as much as I can with open arms, and would love to meet as many of you as I can. I've already met a lot of you just in the past 3 months that I've been here. But I think, again, it's a really integral part to the success of any organization of this size.
Fantastic. You have mentioned that the Corps is in a good financial position, but tour fees continue to rise. And so question here is, why is tuition fee higher than most of the other top 12 corps? And are we as an organization trying to minimize those costs for the members? Right.
That's a great question. Tour fees continue to rise because the cost of doing the activity continues to rise. It's just a simple kind of supply and demand question there. We feel that we do a lot on the back end to try to minimize those fees for members, because, as I mentioned, like our fan shop is about a quarter of our it's not a quarter, sorry, it's like an eighth of our revenue stream. The performances that the corps do, that's a big part of the revenue stream for the Drum Corps as well. So we try to offset that as much as we can and reduce those fees for members as much as we can. But it's difficult because, transportation alone is close to $300,000. When we look at just the buses and the trucks and the fuel and the drivers, that in itself is $300,000. Which is about a third of the operating budget for just the Drum Corps itself, not the total organization. So those prices keep going up. Food keeps going up. We want to have quality staff members, and quality staff members deserve quality pay. We want to have good administrative We want to be able to offer things like this and services like this, to our fans and alumni. And all of that stuff costs money, because even simple subscriptions to Zoom or YouTube or whatever, that has a fee associated with it. And I think a lot of people may not see that. They just kind of see the drum corps, they see that 10 or 11 minutes on the field, and they think, well, that's really not that much. It shouldn't cost that much. But you have to really think about it's like a big pyramid, right? And there's this huge base of work and planning that has to happen underneath that, so that the drum corps can float and do as well as it can and not many stresses on the road, so that members and staff and the touring admin team can really just focus on safety and performance level as they go through the summer. So it's a challenge, and it's something that we're constantly looking at. Every year we review membership dues, and we look at those values, and we try to find a good medium between the value that we think members are getting, as well as what's competitive with the rest of the competitive field that we're in. And just as a perspective, when I was at Spirit, I did a lot of this research on, if you sent a kid to a week-long music camp, if you sent a kid to a week or 3-week-long baseball camp or volleyball camp, Interlochen Arts Camp, I think this year is 7 weeks, and I think it costs $9,000. So when people look at drum corps fees and they go, oh my gosh, that's over $4,000, I can't believe it. But students are getting to tour 10,000 miles, they're having 4 meals a day, they are performing over 26 times. They have an awesome, incredible educational staff that breaks down the student to teacher ratio. They get custom-made uniforms, custom-made flags, they get design, they have all original music, arranged for them. It's pretty phenomenal, the deal that you get. I know it looks like a lot, but when you compare it to other activities outside of drum corps, it's kind of a steal. And we should be charging more like $9,000 or $10,000 for 3 months of activity that we do with kids.
Great. Can you talk a little bit about, let me see here where the questions are. Can you talk a little bit about DEI and the priority there? I know you mentioned kind of member safety, and I think that probably falls under there. Can you talk a little bit about the safety and the priority that Phantom Regiment puts on those kind of parameters?
Sure. Yeah. So participant safety is key. It's at the top of our list for almost everything that we do at Phantom Regiment. So not just the drum corps, but also the other programs that we offer for students around the country. And, our handbook, just for some perspective, when I was in the drum corps activity before, the handbook for members and staff was, maybe 3 to 4 pages. It was mostly procedural things about when you get your paycheck, and there were some things about harassment and whatnot. And I will say now those policies have grown because, we've realized as an activity, I think a collective across the drum corps community, that we really need to think about heat. We need to think about, hydration for members. And we always think about those things, but thinking policies and putting them in place and actually having metrics on what we're going to measure those on. So that's just one example, but those policies have dramatically increased. And to the question specifically about diversity, equity, and inclusion, those policies, again, in the past, you would rarely find those written down in very many organizations. Now we have multiple documents that discuss any issue related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we have a DEI committee that's a part of our board at Phantom Regiment that looks at our policies and thinks about training, how we're going to do training with staff and with members. And now that we're bringing this sort of drum corps program back into the live space, we're going to continue on with those trainings that we had to kind of put pause on for a little bit. So that committee oversees that. They can oversee our policies, that oversee the training that we offer to our members and our staff. And we're constantly just discussing that, as a staff, as a board, we're constantly looking at, like, where can we do better? What can we do more of? Are there ways to make our organization more inclusive and more welcoming to all kinds of members around the country? We have a lot of work left to do, but I think we have a good, strong group of people that's focused purely on those efforts and what we can do better.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Question from Facebook, I think, are there any plans in the work to accept Bitcoin or cryptocurrency donations?
Great question. We are not. We are just trying to figure out how to get through PayPal and Apple Pay. So crypto I think is going to be later. We might do that, in a couple of years. But I will send that one up to the finance committee and let them figure that one out. But great question. Not now. Not currently.
Speaking of committees, can you talk a little bit about the board of directors? Is there a process for choosing board of directors members? And you may not know this answer yet. And if there are any openings on the board.
Sure. Great question. It is not my it's not my level of expertise for sure, but the board has a governance committee, which it's my understanding that is where kind of the idea of membership gets a lot of its, that's where they do a lot of the work on membership and what kind of people they're looking at. So it is my understanding right now, there's not currently a board position that is open or available, but that doesn't mean that can change. I know, again, sort of like DEI, the board is always thinking about, we have a retreat coming up in January, and I know the board is always thinking about the membership that it has, and are there talents or voices that we're missing? Do we need to find certain people to fill those voices that we might be missing? Is there a different perspective that we could bring in that would help sort of diversify how we think about things and how we think about our work and what we want to do? So I think we're always thinking about that, but specifically how the process of when a board position becomes available and how it's recruited, I'm a little fuzzy on, just because I'm new and we haven't tackled that particular issue at this time.
Next question. What's on the wish list? If everything was perfect, all the dreams came true, money wasn't an issue, what does Phantom Regiment look like?
It's a good question. Tangibly, I guess it's like all the best tour vehicles, a brand new food truck. We haven't talked about that yet, but we were in dire need of a new food truck. The truck that we have now was built in 1988 originally. So it's getting up there and needs to be replaced. And so we're actually we're talking about replacing the food truck in the years to come. So that's something we're already discussing and how we're going to fundraise for that. So I think that would be completely overhauled. I think our equipment truck would be completely overhauled. Maybe we'd have extra buses for members and staff so they have a little bit extra room and could sleep. We'd probably stay in hotels every night so that everybody got perfect amount of sleep. We'd only rehearse in indoor climate controlled turf stadiums at every housing facility. So that would be good. We could build a big giant Phantom Regiment like Mecca, and people we could have our offices and rehearsal space and private practice rooms and 3 indoor rehearsal facilities with great vantage points, and there's no wind, so the color guard can spin uninterrupted. I think that would be cool. I think our academy program would be all over the country. We'd have satellite campuses where people could come and do activities and stuff. We'd have a full admin team of people, as opposed to we have a very awesome dedicated small admin team. We all wear 1,000 hats. We're all frantically trying to get things done, but we'd probably grow that team a little bit bigger so we could do more things. Man, I could just keep going. I don't know, but that's the short list, I guess. Christmas next year, if anybody wants to put that in the stocking, that'd be great.
Awesome. And so, with that now wish list, can you talk a little bit about what the greatest needs are right now for Phantom Regiment? What are the things that the problems or the challenges we need to solve kind of in the immediate, rather than that sort of big picture down the road?
Sure. The immediate needs, as I've mentioned, our whole purpose of our year-end campaign right now, and if you haven't given, please take 5 seconds to give and go to our website and make a donation. But we need to replace the sous vide rig that we had to sell off. That's an immediate need we have to do right now. We need to replace the food truck. It is just well beyond its years and it needs to be replaced. That's going to take it's a lot of money. And that's something we've got to do it soon, and we have to plan for that. So that's a big immediate need. Those are our two probably biggest needs. I personally want to keep increasing or think about how we compensate our staff. And like I said, like our team of admin people and what we're doing as our operation continues to grow and gets busier. Like I mentioned, the fan shop, it's doing a lot of business year round now. It's not just a summer touring program. It's a constant, 365 day a year program. So we need people here to do the work. So, I think those are probably top priorities for me. Those are probably the top ones. Yeah, I can think of right now.
Great. And so how can people help, whether that's from a volunteer perspective, and how do they get signed up for that? If it's, you mentioned giving, and that helps certainly on the bottom line, what are some ways people can really just dig in and help?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways. Going back to that alumni conversation I had a little bit earlier, which is, sometimes we need people to raise their hand and say, I can help. That's something, I have an expertise in that, or I have the time to do that. I want to help. So if you're that kind of person that's action oriented and want to give back in that way, that would be great. And that's to contact us through our contact website, or get involved in the Alumni Association, or just reach out to us, on Facebook or something like that, and say like, hey, I live in this area, I'm good at this particular thing, and I can help with that. So that's one way that people can help. Obviously, donating is a huge way to help, because when those funds come in, that allows us to make the decision about where that needs to go. And I know there's a lot of talk in the nonprofit sector about, well, if I'm giving you $1, how much of that dollar are you actually spending on the program that you're delivering, or the solution that you're trying to make, versus the admin costs. And I can just assure you that it's 100% of that dollar is going towards what it needs to go to here at Phantom Regiment, because we run so lean, we run so thin. We're not spending things on superfluous things like beautiful buildings and extra, flights to Cabo and things like that. We're really focusing all of our efforts on how can we be the most efficient with every single dollar that we get in. So donations are help. Raising your hand and saying you want to be involved can help. And then, like I said earlier too, sometimes it's about just showing up. Sometimes it's about buying that ticket to a show and just being out there and applauding. Sometimes it's about coming to, maybe it's not the drum corps, maybe it's a Phantom Regiment Academy program, and we need an audience to hear kids play, a concert. It's about showing up to that. Another way you can help too is spread the word, being a part of the network. When we send out something, whether it's a call for volunteers or, needed support, or watch one of these programs, or like something on Facebook, share that content through social media and tell your friends about it. There's so many people I interact with, when they ask what I do and I tell them, they're like, what? So is it like marching band? And like, how old are the kids and what school is it associated with? They have no idea what drum corps is, but we all know that it's an incredible activity that's like changing kids' lives, right? So sometimes it's about being an advocate in your community and with your friends, and telling them and saying, come with me to a drum corps show, or come and watch this video. Isn't this cool? And getting them excited about it, so that we have a further reach every time we do anything.
Great. Couple quick ones. Membership has increased to 165 for the drum corps. Can you address some of the logistics involved with that?
It's a lot of kids. That's the answer to that. Next, just kidding. So we're going to 165, which is real exciting. That was a unanimous vote in DCI. I think everybody in the activity is excited about this. I can give you a couple little insider things about Phantom Regiment, the drum corps. We are increasing the horn line to 84 members. So the horn line is going to get a little bit bigger. And we're also increasing the color guard to 40 members. So the color guard is going to get a little bit bigger. So we plan to maximize that 165 allotment. Logistics, that question could go 1,000 different ways. It's 11 more members, 11 more participants. So that is 44 more meals a day. And then I haven't done the math, but you can just multiply that times 80 or 90 days, or however long summer is going to be. So that's a lot more meals. It's 11 more seats on buses. So members in the past who might have been able to put something on an extra seat and just kind of, or put their shoes over there or something like that, are not going to be able to do that. So there's some logistics there. But those are easy things to solve. We're excited about it.
Can you share any sneak peeks or hints about 2022? Share a little bit about what maybe the drum corps is up to or going to put on the field or whatever they've given you.
I talked to Tony Hall about this, and he told me I could tell on tonight only, I could tell everybody everything about the show. So you guys are in for a treat because Tony told me anything goes. So I'm going to start going down the rep list now. So get your pens out. I'm just kidding. I can't do any of that stuff, but I can give you a couple of sneak peeks. We're real excited to build on the success of last year and build on the sort of the passion, the intensity of last year, but do it in a new way. So I can assure you that we're not recycling a show. We're not bringing back a previous show from the past and doing that on the field. Although it was very successful last year, we're not going to do that. So everything is going to be new this year, which is great. I'm trying to think of some other things that I can talk about that. We're going to go back to our roots a little bit. We're going to go back to, the precision and the pageantry and the boldness that Phantom Regiment has been known for so many years. So that's a key part of the DNA of this show that's coming. We're continuing our partnership with Fred J. Miller and Michael Cesario. And I've seen a sneak peek of the costume or the uniform for this year, and it looks awesome. It's this really cool sense of being classic and defined and refined, like Regiment is, but in some kind of new contemporary concepts that are on it. So I'm real excited about that because it's a classic look, but in a new, fresh way. So we're real excited about that, the uniform. I'm trying to think what else. Let me just look at my notes because I know that Tony said I could say a couple of things. And the other thing is, we're real excited to have Steven Estadio added to our team as our new visual designer. We're just thrilled to have him on board. He came to the audition camp in November and had great conversations with JD Shaw, our music arranger, and with Tony. And they were, out in the warehouse playing with props and looking at how we could manipulate things and how we could, how we could get the most bang for our buck from the GE standpoint. So we're real excited to have him on board and have a fresh perspective there. And he's just seeming to fit in really well with the team. So sorry I couldn't leak any, actual titles and that kind of thing, but I think you're going to be happy.
Well, everyone will just have to wait until the spring because we will do another, hopefully, if I can get them on board. The design team last year did an insiders only a webinar like this with the design team and got to ask questions and get a lot of sneak early information about the show. So hopefully those who are watching who aren't already Club 56 members will go to regiment.org/club56 and join in to be a part of it in the spring. All right,
Okay.
One last question before we turn it over to Missy to give a few Club 56 updates. When is Phantom Regiment going to take gold again?
Oh, that's a great question. We have a plan for that. I don't feel comfortable discussing that plan publicly, but it's our hope to do that. That's our hope to do that soon. I'm not saying like soon, but you have to, everybody thinks it's like, you just got to get the right team together and the right members and the right show. And then you just win. And that's just not how it is. It takes time to build that. It takes a lot of key decisions at key points along the process to make that happen. So it is definitely something that's in our sights. It's definitely something that we want to make happen. And we want to make sure that we take the right steps at the right time to try to make that happen as soon as we can for our fans and our alumni.
Awesome. I did have one more question just pop in that I'm curious about. How do you feel about woodwinds in drum corps?
Wow, that's a tough one. I think, okay, here's the deal. I'm a trombone player. And when I was in college, I played in a trombone choir. And that might sound like kind of geeky or like who wants to listen to trombone choir music? But what's amazing about it is that when you have a unified instrumental voice, it really sounds like the human voice, right? We love choirs, especially around the holidays, right? Because we just love that sound of group of people singing, because they all have the same basic instrument in different ranges. And trombone choir is the same way. And so that's how I feel actually about drum corps. I think one thing that makes drum corps unique, and the reason we get like so excited for those big impact moments, those big ballad, releases at the end of the ballad or whatever, is because it's kind of a unified voice that releases together, and it has the same sonority, if I'm saying that right. And there's a timbral cohesiveness, right? So my personal opinion is that I love drum corps to be brass. Not that couldn't be enhanced with woodwinds, but I'm a purist in that way. I love just that big brass sound. Was that political enough? Did I make it through that one?
I think you did. And also, I'll just posit, it's not your decision. So it's the collective's decision. So it's not like, but we can certainly inform it.
Right.
Okay, so that was awesome. I've been working with Todd now for a few months, and I learned things about him that I did not know. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much for doing this for our audience, our fans, our donors. I think there's certainly more questions that people might have, which they're welcome to send to us, and we will see if we can answer them on future events like this, or get back to them directly if it's something really important that we want to get them an answer for. So feel free, you can email me directly. We have a club56@regiment.org. You're welcome to email, which is a great segue, because the other person on the other end of that email is Missy, who's gonna secretly turn on her camera now and pop in. Missy is our Club 56 coordinator. She does this as a volunteer and does a lot of work in addition to her main gig as a teacher and a color guard instructor. And so we're very grateful to have her. And I'm going to turn it over to her to just share any Club 56 updates and just make sure you all are informed of what we have sort of in store for the coming months.
Thanks, Robin, and thanks, Todd. It was amazing to hear all of your thoughts and plans for the future. I sure do wish that we could get you all of those things on your wish list for Christmas next year. Indoor turf would be so amazing. I just want to remind everybody that show tickets are on sale already. It would be awesome if we could get a big block of Club 56 members so we could all gather together and talk. I also wanted to mention the insider access events that Robin mentioned earlier. We're planning on having the same ones we had last year, but if you have any ideas, feel free to email me any ideas you have. We also wanted to mention that we're improving our experience for our investors with a new way to interact with the Club 56, and you'll be seeing those come out soon. Back to you, Robin.
Thanks, Missy. And thank you, Todd, for taking the time tonight. And thank all of you who joined us, whether you were on the live stream or here on the webinar asking questions. These are so fun and just a great way for us to all kind of play drum corps again for a little bit. Todd and I play it all the time, but we know you all, wait in anticipation for everything that happens in the summer, and love to hear about the other programs that we're growing and really paying attention to. So thank you for all that you do, whether it's, as Todd mentioned, whether it's you give of your time, your talents, or your treasure. We don't take that lightly here, and we are very serious about being good stewards of our investors' money. So we hope you enjoyed tonight. Happy New Year. Please, if you haven't yet, take some time to go over to regiment.org/year-end as well. It's all just one word. We'll make sure to put some links, and they're all over Facebook. And if you go to our website, it's right there on the front page. But we're really trying to get to raise $60,000 by the end of the year. And that will help us purchase that vehicle that we're going to need for the souvenir trailer, which again is a huge revenue generator for us, and doesn't require us to ask you for money. You get to buy stuff. And we sell stuff at shows, and it's a huge piece of our bottom line that helps us get down the road and helps us do what we do here. So if you can make a donation, we would greatly appreciate it by the end of the year. And we will be in touch soon with additional opportunities like this to get involved. And again, if you have questions, Club 56, Club 56 at regiment.org, you're welcome to email Missy and I, and we'll get back with you. And yeah, thank you. And Happy New Year. And we'll see you in 2022. Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. Happy New Year.